So for those who don't know, my name's Charlie Beech. This is Front Row Supports Clubhouse. Welcome to the Clubhouse Presents. Where basically once a month, our networking group sort of comes together. We bring in someone who's got a sporting past generally, and we talk about transition from professional sport. So a lot of these talks you'll see a lot of people come up and they talk about the glory days, talk about that game that they played in, that goal that they scored, or any of those things. We focus on the transition out of sport, because for us that's the important bit, and frankly it's the bit that needs more support, and it's the bit that's most relevant to the business people in the room, because there's lots of lessons to be learned about how we go from one place to another, and we're all sort of doing it. So that is the cause, the home of English rugby. So I've known Ant so long, I falsely put up that we'd met during England age group training. He then rang me to tell me I need to change all the marketing, because actually he'd never played for England, he was with Wales, and I should shut the hell up. So I'm just leaving Twickenham over his head for a little while longer. So athlete transition from the stadium to the boardroom. It's the cause, because all of us have to leave at some point, some of us sooner than others, some of us drag on this career as long as we bloody can, far longer than we should. Yes, I'm talking about myself. And it's kind of going, look, there's a time that I'll have to give it up fully and sort of move on to the next world. Some people get it robbed away from them far too young, and obviously we'll hear about that today, but everyone's got to go through that journey that's in this. Eventually all of us are going to have to retire from business, but rather than doing it at the age of 60, 65, 70, when you've got pensions and things in place to look after you, we do it in our mid to late 20s, early 30s, and we've got no pensions in place and nothing to go to. So it's Front Row Support's trying to sort of bridge that gap between sport and business. So the idea, we called it the Clubhouse for a reason. On the left, you have a clubhouse. So after any sporting event, everyone gets inside afterwards, gets a few beers in them. If it's rugby, all the fans and players get together and have a laugh and talk about how this one punched that one or that one through that one. Ash, you are probably in that picture, I can see leading forward. I'm trying to recreate that in a business setting, because all of us have been at networking events that are painful as hell. You wear a name badge. Yes, I am talking about being ITD on the notes today. There's all different ones. The chapter presidents over there don't make too much noise. It's not just B&I though. Like, we've all been to these ones where it's like a forced agenda. You sit down, tell what to do, where to do it. It's painful. And it's like, we all had to go to school as kids. We all had to go to church. You go to church schools. You sit there and you get nod when you should nod and do what you do. And networking's turned into that. Proper networking is sitting and having a pint with people who've got something in common. Doesn't have to be an alcoholic pint for those of you that will. But it's actually sitting there getting to know each other. It's sitting there actually sort of finding those commonalities and then deciding that's the person you want to work with. So that's what we're trying to create here. Obviously, it's a gorgeous place to do it. We were invited here a while back, and we've not left just yet. So the showcase is the Clubhouse Presents. This is the people we get in once a month, and I am seeing how many of them I can add each month before it becomes too crowded and I can't fit anyone else in. So I'm spotting himself in the corner already. So these are the people. They are small. Do you know what? I do put it out. I've not noticed. These are some of the people we've had here already. So we're not just focused on rugby, while Front Row Support is clearly rugby based. We're not just about rugby. So we've got a good few rugby players on there. We've got a wheelchair rugby league, Olympic gymnast, weightlifters, and obviously a whole host of rugby players at both codes, all genders, because this is an issue that sort of afflicts all of us. Again, I always put this one at one because I just love that picture. Reminds me of better times when I had hair, times where things were glorious and easy and simple. But obviously I also don't ask people, I don't do things to other people before I do it to myself first. So there's me doing the sport and there's me doing the business afterwards. That was during our relaunch event here just over a year ago now.
Yeah, February last.
There you go. So yeah, I was full-time for 15 years. I'm still semi-pro. My first professional season was 2005. So yeah, we're nearly coming up on 20 years of me running around doing this thing, and surprisingly, my knees still work. Now, I normally create one myself, but you did such a good job creating this one, I thought I'd just nick yours in. So I guess today is someone I have known for a very long time, and he didn't play for England in any way, shape or form at any point. But we played at London Welsh together. We've got that one, right? Back when we were, before that other picture of me was taken actually, so back when we were like early 20s. I'll let him tell more of his story because I'll do it with this service. But he's a fantastic human being. We've done a lot of work on a lot of different fronts over the years, and very proud not only that he's our guest today, but to call him a friend. Ladies and gentlemen, Andrews. So as I say, we talk about transition, but we need to know where you transitioned from. So I'll hand to you to sort of talk about where you were, what you were doing, what happened, and you can sort of weave that story in. I'll pipe in with a few bits. Towards the end, I'll pick 3 people to give you a question, and at the end, I just want a single thought that they can take away with them that will be useful. So that's the outline of the whole thing. Over to you, Mr. Andrews.
Cool. So this picture on the left was probably taken about 2 or 3 months before my last game of professional rugby. So up to that point, I had a career about 6-7 years playing professional, semi-professional rugby, played for London Welsh, where I met this fine gentleman, played in the national leagues with Barking Rugby Club, where we won National 2, we're on the cusp of winning National 1, and went back to West London with London Scottish in 2011. And yeah, I guess up to that point, sport was always the thing that I wanted to do, even as a young kid. I was pretty successful academically, but early memories of school was playing football in the playground. Football was my first love sport. So it wasn't actually rugby. I didn't start playing rugby until I was about 12 or 13. But from a young age, all I ever wanted to do was play sport. So then having a career where I was playing sport as a job was basically my dream come true. So when I signed for London Scottish, that was my route back into professional rugby. So I played professional rugby with London Welsh, then went to Barking semi-professional. Still young at the time, learning my craft in the championship and senior rugby. And so yeah, I was kind of on the cusp of re-signing a professional contract with London Scottish, playing in the championship week in, week out for them. Season was going well. And on New Year's Day in 2012, I was playing a game against Leeds, so just up the road from here. And I think it was midway through the second half, I went to make a tackle, stayed on my feet, and as a good flanker does, tries to get over the ball on the jackal. It was a very wet day. The ground was very boggy. Went to plant my left leg to go for the jackal, but as I planted it, it kind of slipped like that. Their tight head prop, who was an American international, hit me this way. Somebody else hit me this way. So anyway, my leg was kind of in the mud. I went this way, my leg stayed that way. And unfortunately, my knee completely dislocated. So like I snapped basically everything in the knee, all the ligaments. As the knee dislocated, it actually smashed all the bone on top of the fib or the tibia as it came out of joint. And yeah, the physio team, the doctor team ran on. I knew I'd done something serious. I was just lying on the floor, just like hands over my face, just like, what the hell was that noise and sensation? That was like, and yeah, anyway, everyone was flapping around, all the physio team, and I remember, I'll never forget these words. The London Scottish doctor was like, right, everyone calm down. This is a limb-threatening injury. I'll never forget them words. This is a limb-threatening injury. I was like, whoa, what the hell have I done? And anyway, so the doctor was like, and we need to try and get your knee back into joint here, because apparently they'd lost the pulse in my foot. There's a pulse you feel down here, which could signify the damage to the main artery going down your leg. So they were like, right, we need to try and get the knee back into joint. And I was like, okay. So anyway, they tried to manipulate the knee back into joint on the pitch. And before that point, I was just in shock. There was no pain. When they tried to relocate the knee, that's where the pain, as you can imagine,
What the hell?
hit. And I think, I don't know how far we are from the Headingley Stadium, but I know my scream reverberated around the whole stadium and beyond. Some of my teammates that were playing in that game still claim that was the most horrendous thing they've ever seen on a rugby pitch. Anyway, they couldn't get the knee back into joint, got me on a stretcher, tried again in the physio room outside of the pitch. This time they gave me something to put in my mouth so I could bite into it as they tried, and it was like, couldn't do it. Because, yeah, by that point I was just tensing up too much. So, yeah, got me in a ambulance, took me to Leeds General, finally drugged me up enough that they were able to relocate the knee, and had my first procedure. And then, yeah, proceeded to have 3 more major surgeries over the next 6 months. And yeah, worked with a physio for about 2 years, relearned to walk. I remember I couldn't run for about 16, 17 months after the injury to relearn how to run. And yeah, obviously that was a big change, dramatic shift and change in my life. And probably didn't realize how much of a big change it was for probably about 3, 4, 5 years, because as rugby players, we like to work towards a goal. We're quite driven people. So I was like, I've got a new goal. That's to get my knee better. So I worked, like I say, diligently with a physio, doing all the boring rehab that, certainly was very boring to start with. It was gentle movements. I mean, I remember being in a brace and I couldn't bend it more than about that, then that, and then each couple of weeks I'd get a little bit more range. By 6 months I couldn't bend the knee more than about 90 degrees. So the final procedure I had was an MUA, which is called a manipulation under anaesthetic, where they basically knock you out and break all the scar tissue up, because all the scar tissue that formed in my leg and my knee, etc. As you can see now, I've pretty much got full range in it again. And yeah, I've got full range in it now, full function in it now, because of the diligence that I had through the rehab process, the support that I had from people like physios and doctors. The club looked after me really well, even though I was kind of out of contract at the end of that season. And then, yeah, so I had that goal of getting fit. I also had the opportunity to stay involved in rugby and coach immediately. So I kind of stayed in that kind of mindset, that group of people where, now I was a coach, I was looking to achieve winning leads for the team, but from the sideline rather than being on the pitch. And anyway, that kind of continued for 3, 4, 5 years. And then after about 4 or 5 years, I kind of hit a sticking point where the energy of the rugby player that was super driven, worked really hard, wasn't working for me anymore. I was working in education by this point. I hit a summer holiday and I literally just was on my knees. I was basically going through like a burnout crisis, don't know what it was. And yeah, decided that again, I needed some help, but I didn't really know what help I needed. By this point, I'd started to dabble in practices like yoga. I started to open myself up because I realized that almost kind of warrior-esque energy of the rugby world had served me to a point, but now it wasn't serving me anymore. Or that soul energy wasn't serving me anymore. So I luckily found some mentors and coaches and was brave enough to step into the yoga studio, where I was a big guy surrounded by women going, I can't do half of the things that this teacher's trying to ask me to do. My body's not flexible. I can't really move this side of the body very well. But there was always a feeling after each time I practiced that I feel good. So I followed that feeling of feeling good and practice more. And yeah, the yoga, along with working with certain mentors and coaches, helped me open up different parts of myself, so different energies that were always within me, but I'd forgotten about, because I'd been indoctrinated almost in this rugby mentality of the only way to achieve a goal is to smash through it. And I was good at that, but you know, that smashing through energy all the time came at a bit of a cost to my body, to my mind. So I've now kind of learned that there's other ways to approach certain things, you know, and the yoga's taught me so much of, you know, I was talking to someone about this the other day, and, you know, that rugby world has taught me that kind of strong and fast energy. The yoga world has taught me the slower, softer energy, which is a very strong approach as well. It's certainly a needed approach when you become a father for the first time, like I have done in the last few years, when you've got a young child that maybe needs more of a nurturing moment rather than you know, tough love, kind of what we learned through the rugby world. So I guess now I sit in a place where I'm integrating both of these energies within me. I've still got that drive and determination to want to achieve, but I've also got this energy where I can actually sit back and be relaxed for a change. I remember before I had this crisis moment, I was working in a school. I was head coach of a big rugby team. I was also running these retreats in Spain with a yoga teacher. I was doing the fitness element, and and one of the guests, I was pottering about during one of the breaks in between sessions, and I was asking one of the guests, "Oh, do you need anything? Do you want me to put some music on?" They were just chilling out by the pool, and they said to me, like, "Anne, do you ever stop?" And I was like, laughed it off at the time. It's like, yeah. I'm kind of into this yoga stuff now. I'm like starting to be all zen. And it got to that summer, and that comment was part of that meltdown, because it was a realization of, I don't think I ever have stopped. I don't think I ever was told that it was okay to stop. So the yoga world has kind of taught me the value of slowing down, taught me the value of stopping for, you know, a few moments in the day, a few moments in the week, a few moments in the year, becoming more attuned to my natural cycles, the cycles of nature, the cycles of and the seasons of life. So, you know, I'm in a season right now where I've got 2 kids under 2.5. So it's a constant kind of battle for me to be like, right, you need to push, you need to strive to be more impactful with your work. But then it's like, no, just relax. You're fine to take things a little bit slower at the moment. And it's kind of accepting the ebbs and flows. And yeah, so now I own a studio where I host various classes, yoga classes. I teach yoga regularly. I work with clients one-to-one in a holistic coaching relationship. I've got a group program where I've worked with rugby dads, teach rugby dads how to slow down, relax. And I've got a podcast where Charlie shared our conversation from a few years ago. And yeah, so I talk with former rugby players. It's called the Post Rugby Podcast. So I talk with former rugby players, similar to what Charlie's doing here, about athlete transition. But also, I like to get guests on that are pushing the boundaries of the conversation within the rugby space. So, you know, having yoga former players that are practicing yoga, former players that are working with modalities like breath work, for instance. I had a guy on recently, Reese Thomas, who I'm going to be running a session with in June, who's a breathwork coach, and yeah, other former rugby players that are into more holistic health, because ultimately there's a lot of rugby players out there that need kind of healing after the game. There's lots of players currently going through a big law case where there's hundreds, thousands of players that have been injured in the game that are still suffering the effects of it. But yeah, I'd like to almost be an example of a former player that shows other players that you can heal, given your body that space, giving it that time, giving it that energy, giving it these different approaches. Because yeah, I sit here, since that injury, I've gone back and played a handful of games for the teams that I coached. I can turn up on a sunny afternoon in Leeds and run around with the youngsters and enjoy it. I can do everything that I could possibly want to with my young kids, which I know I speak to a lot of rugby dads. They're like, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that because my back's blown, my shoulders this, my knees this, my hips that. So it's encouraging these big, tight rugby guys to slow down, to start thinking about practices like yoga. And we spoke about Tai Chi is another practice that I've explored, and these more kind of softer approaches to mastering the body. And by mastering the body, you're also mastering your mind at the same time. And yeah, I don't sit here in this place where I'm this kind of enlightened guru in any way, but I look at my life now compared to that, busy, stressed rugby player that I was, because I was stressed. I was like, had this constant drive to achieve, which was, I don't want to say it was a bad thing, but it was almost like this. I was too in that energy of wanting to prove myself, which I realize now. I was too much in that energy. So the only way my life could go is for something drastic to happen to kind of make me stop, make me look at this other side of myself. And that's what happened. And I look back now at that event 12 years ago, and I said this to loads of people, I genuinely believe that was one of the best days of my life, because it kind of woke me up to the broader parts of myself. And yeah,
only God can see around corners.
well, exactly. I mean, even that word in itself, like, I wouldn't even considered that word when I was a rugby player. I've got a relationship with that word now, which there's no way I would have had if that hadn't happened. So I truly believe now from this place that things do happen for reasons, and things happened for me rather than to me, and that in itself is a big consciousness shift. Rather than, oh, this happened to me, it can be quite easy to fall into that role of the victim, and I was in that role for a while, but then realizing that this has actually happened for me. This has happened for me to have this conversation and meet you guys right now. I wouldn't be having this conversation.
Well, this is the interesting bit, because as like you say, I was in the week sort of promoting the fact that was coming up and sort of seeing if anyone was going to come along, and I found that graphic of the podcast we did, and you sit there and you think, like, I'm still going through, I'm still running away through. I tried retiring, it didn't work. I've gone back in. We sat and took a time to sit and talk on your podcast about this, and I don't think it was really in my mind what, like you say, you sort of just keep going, drive, do fast, do more, do further, and you suddenly sit down and you go, now we've got to stop at some point, and there is nothing. And you in that conversation, like you say, kind of tilted me down another path, ended up here doing this with you sat here now. And it's a strange old journey, and the mental side of it is massive and massively underappreciated. Even like, you started that story with the knee, and it's a horrific thing. Like, I've dislocated the shoulder, I know that feeling of missing, putting it back in. So I'm reliving that as you're sat there telling it. But we're very pragmatic when it comes to injuries, rugby players. I've noticed this with non-sports people when they get injured, that like mentally they're quite traumatized by it. When we kind of aren't, like, that's 6 weeks. Every injury is just a time frame. Like, saw someone last night that broken their third metatarsal. Shall I say 6 weeks? And that's it. There's no focus on the pain. There's no focus on the trauma. It's how long am I out before I can get back and do the thing I love. And I really didn't realise it until you came up here and played in that summer tournament. Now, so we were out literally on the paddock out there. I went out there with my line painter and painted up a pitch. We played 5-side touch rugby, so half a pitch, mixed teams. It was brilliant, and it was literally like nearly 40 degrees that day. It was insane. But Ant came up and I put him in one of the teams. He's one of the star players. Every team had a star player, and he ran around. And I knew he'd done it. I knew how he finished his career. I knew all these bits. But you were driving away, and he dropped a message on LinkedIn, or he dropped me a message, and he was like, "That's the first time I've been to Leeds and played in Leeds since I blew my knee." And I could see the impact on him. And it was like 12 years of this thing just being like, I said, I've got to go back from this. 3 years is 5 years. Suddenly all that just went, pulled the car over, literally sat there going. And it's a mad old thing that we've done and we're going through. And I think it's amazing that someone's sort of looking at it from that different angle.
Yeah.
I said, you looking at it, you examining it, pushed me down this path, and it's a big part of why we're sat here now, because that day, me and you having that chat that day kind of put me down that someone needs to do something more about this, like there needs to be something doing, and being as I'm a pig-headed prop forward, I thought, well, I'll dive in the trenches and work out myself, so I say.
One thing to just jump in on that, what came from my mind when you said about an injury, because this is what I noticed for years after my injury, was whenever I'd see someone that maybe I've not seen for a little while, knew about the injury, they'd always say to me, "And how's your knee? How's your knee? How's your knee?" That was always the question. Not once did anybody stop and go, "How are you?"
Yeah. We're very physically focused.
Yeah.
So I can't sit there that long with one leg, I'll do the other one.
But that's what I've kind of, speaking to guy that just left, Matt. He's talking about his plans for the more holistic side for his football. And I said to him that we get lured into this trap that we are purely physical, because our senses do lock us into this physical reality. We kind of forget that there's this mental element to us. We forget that there's this emotional element to us. Especially for us as rugby players, as men, is like, yes, there is that part of you.
No, that's the cage and thrown over there somewhere.
And it's not just that, that angry bull that's part of the emotional world. It's all these different flavors and different textures. There's also this, we mentioned the G word, this spiritual element to all of us as human beings that, again, we're not taught about. We're not taught about the value of it. We're taught about the value of mastering the physical world, our physical bodies, our physical work, our things that we do. So yeah, a big part of my journey over recent years is this journey from doing to being, is like, how can I, what qualities do I want to bring to say something like this? Not once did I come up here thinking, right, I need to plan. It's like, I just focused on being relaxed, being open, because in that space, that's when magic can happen, right? It's when you're not overthinking, you're not planning, you're not analyzing, you're open, you're relaxed. That's where these kind of insights can come into your mind from who knows where, right? So it's, and that's what I help people with. This is what I'm helping the dads with, is I call it a rugby dad circle. So we sit in a circle and we talk about the challenges of fatherhood, and the joys of fatherhood, and it's kind of remembering that we're not just here to provide. Yes, that's part of our role, but we're also here to be a person to our loved ones, to our kids, and it's that kind of holistic approach that I've and that holistic journey that I've learned, that I continue to aim to embody, and even through my work, it's like, yes, I've got goals and there's a big vision that I have for these rugby dad circles. Like I said this to someone the other day. I launched it for the first time on Sunday, had the first circle, a small group of men in my studio in the Midlands. And I said, imagine having a rugby dad circle in every rugby club in the world, where dads, not just dads, any men can come together and be human with one another, you know, for half an hour, however long. So yeah, so that's part of my grander vision is to, why not place one of these circles in every clubhouse. So yes, I think the post-game beers and the chat, like, oh yeah, you smashed him and that's all amazing. But can we take it, you know, get it a little bit deeper? Can we kind of start exploring these other elements as rugby players, as dads, as community members?
It's an interesting one because we had, I know you know Stevie, we had Stevie Ward in that seat a couple of months back. And he was saying it's that courage to be open and be vulnerable around other people.
Yeah.
Because like you say in rugby, it's like, you know, we're in to pick up, smash balls, knock things over. The rest of that's what we are. Sort of that's the image we give out.
Yeah.
He sat there going, oh yeah, you know, these big, tight, stressed up blokes, and I'm sat here being like, yeah, actual definition, just sat on the table. And it's like that's the image we're told to put out there. We are, you know, we can, you know, walk over broken glass and go back and ask for more. I mean, that's the kind of image it is. So like almost those bits where you sit there, those beers, because they open you up and make you feel a bit more relaxed, and you actually have those conversations. You're right though, it's like it's something we absolutely need to look more into, and I think it's why your particular journey I find so fascinating. Because I think it was on the podcast we talked about physios looking after the physical side. We're saying there should be mental physios. I said mentos is a little. I think it's done already, but do you mean that kind of, you know, someone looking after that side of things?
Yeah.
But it's such a dramatic flip because it's kind of. It's very. You said at the beginning, like the courage to walk into a yoga studio. I've had this conversation with Hannah recently, bless her, because she took up yoga shortly after. Well, she tried taking up yoga several times while she was working for us. But when you're a big guy and you walk into a yoga studio, now as you'll all see when I sat here and had a couple of cups of coffee, sweat drips off me pretty quick, right? Now you're a young lady, you're wearing your yoga pants. There's 30 other yoga ladies in yoga pants sat in a room. You turn around, there's a big, hairy, sweaty bloke sweating at the back of the yoga studio before you even started. It's not really a good look. And so I think straight away I'm going, oh, I really don't want to be here because I feel like everyone in this room is being made uncomfortable by me being here. And then, as you said, then the session starts. And the fact they call it downward facing dog and they're all going, and he's like, oh, yeah, I jumped. I'm just now, I'm leaving. I'm not, oh, sorry. And you leave. And it's really tough because you're not that guy. You don't want to be that guy. You don't want anyone feeling that way about you. So you get out of the way. And so you kind of, it is a real sort of brave piece to go, no, I'll get on with that. I'll do that. I think it's a massively kind of, it's an amazing thing that we can take it, sort of make it our own. So I think the contrast is it is inspiring. What pushed you that way? Because I know you sort of said in the middle, you said, oh, I just turned to yoga and started doing bits. It's like, was there a point where you went, that's where I want to go now? Or was it someone inspired? So how did that?
So about a year or so before that kind of breakdown moment I mentioned, this was before I went into education. I was a fitness manager running a gym, and so as part of the fitness manager role, you had to manage a class program. So on the class program that I inherited was all sorts of classes: yoga, Pilates, spinning, legs, bums and tums, you name it. So as part of my role as a fitness manager, I'd have to start interacting with the teachers, pay their invoices and whatnot, get to know them a little bit. And I went in to try a few classes, but the first class I went to was an old lady, very kind of woo-woo, and was talking about all this stuff. I was like, what is this? What is this yoga? And anyway, it didn't really resonate with me. And then there was another teacher that come in, and she was a bit younger and done a bit more of a dynamic practice. So I was like, well, yeah, I went to try that. And anyway, we were having a conversation one day over the desk. She was saying, oh, I need to get cover. So I'm going away in a few weeks. I've got something on, blah, blah, blah. I said, oh, you going on holiday? And she was like, no, I'm running this retreat out in Spain. So you do yoga, there's nice food. Anyway, she starts telling me about this, and it coincided that I had that week already booked off as annual leave, but hadn't arranged to do anything yet. So anyway, one thing led to another. I was like, not really into yoga that much, but I felt that I did need a bit of a break. So anyway, I went on this yoga retreat for 5 days in the middle of Spain, in the middle of these hills, and with this yoga teacher from the gym, and she was running it with this other lady who's a meditation teacher and also an energy healer. So and I didn't know anything about energy healing, didn't know anything about energy, didn't know anything about yoga really. I just thought it was stretching.
Yeah.
That's what most people think yoga is, right? You go and you stretch, that's yoga. And people think I'm no good at yoga because I'm not flexible. That's like the line I've heard 100 million times in the last. You know, I can't show you, I can't do yoga. I'm not flexible, and it's like. So anyway, that was me. I'm not a yogi. I'm not flexible. Like I don't know any nobody going on this thing other than you. Like totally out of my comfort zone. But there was this little pull, this little urge that felt. So anyway, went on this retreat and just had the most mind-blowing experience. Had this session with this energy healer, and it was just like, what the fuck has happened in that? You know, like I remember her putting her hands on my knee, and it literally felt like trauma was just evaporating into the air, and I was just like, and I remember doing the yoga class after this session, and I could like, you know, go into a full squat. I was doing this kind of like half squat into this, and I was literally like, this class has been designed for me to test my leg exactly in this angle where, you know, I thought it was, you know, done for or weak. So anyway, I came back from that, and I guess still to this day, so that was in 2017. I'm still trying to figure out what exactly happened on that retreat, because with my rational kind of like analytical mind, I mean, I studied maths at university, got a very kind of like analytical mind. It's just like, what the hell happened in that? And you know, I'm a little bit closer to kind of understanding. I've trained in various energy healing modalities, for instance, and I've seen some pretty amazing things from that side of the world. And so that was my kind of like initiation into the world of yoga and spirituality and healing. And I guess the thing to note, as you were speaking and as I was speaking there, what came to me, I've been talking to the dads about this idea of the hero's journey. The start of the journey always begins with a call to adventure. Every movie has this. Every movie that you've ever seen follows this archetypal journey of the hero. And that conversation that I had with that yoga teacher, that was the call to adventure. Most people stop at like the second stage of the hero's journey, which is the refusal of the call. Most people get this subtle, maybe it's not subtle, but like how I see it is if you keep ignoring these calls to adventure, these subtle signs, these synchronicities, these little weird moments where it's like, oh yeah, I need to speak to that person. There was something there, or whatever it is. Those whispers will keep coming until the universe just goes, boom, wake up, right? So anyway, when you answer that call, the next phase of the hero's journey is then meeting the mentor. And then the mentor takes you into, you know, all your challenges, your trials, your tribulations. You go through, you know, there's a famous saying that I like, which kind of typifies the depths of the hero's journey in that, and that is, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek. So the mentor helps you just enter that cave with a little flashlight, so it's not as scary. You overcome that challenge, whatever it is, and then the return, the last phase of the hero's journey, is coming back to your normal world with that, they call it the elixir of that shift in awareness, that shift in state, that new knowledge that you bring back to the community, bring back to your normal world. So I guess that's what we're both here, you know, to been involved in rugby. You're kind of coming at it from the business angle. I'm kind of coming at it from the kind of healing angle, I guess. But we're, you know, we've been on this journey where we've been forced to go and explore these other worlds, but we're, you know, bringing this knowledge back to the rugby community to say, you can heal, you don't have to live with that pain your whole life just because you played rugby, and maybe even hold on to that as a badge of honor because, oh, I was a rugby player, so I've got this fucking pain that's still nagging me.
Love how people are laughing under their breath and like, yeah.
You don't have, like, you know, you can, you know, and that healing journey won't look exactly like mine because everybody's journey is different. But you can get back to this place where it's like, I'm not a rugby player, I'm a human being. Like I don't identify myself as a rugby player anymore. Rugby was a massive part of my life. I loved it. And what I've realized now is there's a kind of energy of an athlete that flows through me. Talk a lot about archetypes within my coaching, and the energy of the athlete is flowing through me. So now, instead of smashing people on the rugby pitch, I can channel that energy into doing a downward facing dog. And it still kind of, you know, scratches that urge that I've always had to move my body to, you know, to kind of work towards something. And yeah, like, you know, I've got no kind of ill feelings around that injury, my time as a rugby player. I know a lot of players have challenges around identity when they finish playing because, you know, they attach their identity to the thing that they're doing. They attach their identity to the playing. But, you know, I help people see that that's ultimately not them. It's you know, it's a part of them. It's not them.
It's a tough one. It's funny because you mentioned the word hero, and immediately my head shoots into fantasy world because I'm a nerd. There's a fantasy writer who's the father of British fantasy guy called David Gebel, and most of his books are about there he is. I'm dressing training.
Yes.
So most of them are about like guy with an axe, guy with a crossbow, guy with swords, all this. And then there's one book called The Quest for Lost Heroes, and it opens with this scene where, like, we'll sing 300, we know what 300 is, that kind of thing. But instead of being 300, there's 4, and these 4 are in this valley pass, and this mighty horde that has taken over everything with their like warrior general at the crest of it, like coming up the hill, and these 4 hold this fort, and the 4 that survive. I was more than that to begin with, there's 4 left, and they get to whatever the top. I forget the exact plot. Essentially, like there was a time frame. The time frame passes because these 4 stubborn bastards they wouldn't surrender the fort. They absolutely refused. And in the end, the warrior king's like, "Well done, we're retreating. You've saved your land," and disappeared. And then the story shoots forward 20 years, and these 4 blokes are absolutely lost in their world. Like 2 of them live in the middle of the woods because they just can't deal with people anymore. One of them's got a job, sort of in the palace, doing something to do with guards. And there's one of them, and again, I identify with a lot of the characters that I find. Big bald bastard with a beard, sat in a pub, getting absolutely wrecked every night, screaming, and like, you know, he'd get drunk and he'd relive all this trauma and all these things he had to kill and do, and his thing is, I was on top of the mountain. And it's that, I've been to the peak of the mountain, I've been as high as I'll be, and now everything from this moment forward is down. And that's where most people see in professional sports, like, I've been to the top of the mountain, now everything else is just this downward slope leading to crash, ruin, burn, and all the rest of it. And that mental side of things is such a tough thing to break, and that's why we lose so many people in that journey in the last couple of years. And you know, your one has found your way through in a really amazing way. But it's a tough old track, and so being able to like reframe it and come in another way. Like my thing is, I've always been like, you know, prop is a word for support. You know, my business is literally called prop. Like that's kind of how I ran it, because I'm a nerd, like puns. So like that's part of what I am. My job in life is to come, like a prop's role is to take the energy of the guys behind him and throw it forward. You know, I'm there to hold up, I'm there to win balls, throw people to score and win the games with. Like I am there as a support mechanism. So I've found a business where I get to support others and be a conduit. That's kind of what I'm going from. Whereas like you say, you're coming from this healing place. You know, like we aren't just that. We've got so much more to give and so many other ways of doing it. And it's a fascinating thing to say. He's such like a, you know, literally flipping it on its head. You know, I'm not just a rugby player. Like my thing is, I am a rugby player. I'm a rugby player through and through. It's heart, soul, and everything. That's all of, not all I've ever been, but from a very early age, like my family are all footballers. Like pro footballers, semi-pro footballers, referees, they're all in football. And at the age of 7, when I broke someone's dad, you know, dad and lad's game, they were like, wrong game for you, sunshine. So it's like, I ended up, rugby was always my thing. And it will always be my thing. It's part of what I am. That is something that I'm with. And it's amazing. There's different journeys, different things to look at. Like you say, that energy side. I mean, you'll have to furnish through his last name. Magic Dave?
Dave Hill.
Dave Hill. So my daughter, so yeah, so my daughter would not sleep for love nor money. Turned out like cutting her, yeah, gluten and dairy free now, which helps her sleep. For 18 months, that girl would not stop screaming. I mean, she's like me, she's loud. But she would not stop screaming. Check it to Dave, who was in our networking group. He's a chiropractor, but an energy-based one. And I'll be honest, I'm sat there reading this energy book in the waiting room going, I mean, I love Kung Fu Panda as much as the next guy, but I'm kind of going, I literally saw him. He was like, put his hand on her. She's screaming like that. And she just stopped. Just it's like someone, it was the weirdest, just fully like mid-scream, just kind of, and he looked like he'd been hit. Walked away, almost shaking his hand, like, oh. And he was like, I think whatever she's been through, and honestly, from that point on, it's so different. So I know that when you're saying about your knee, it's like, I don't understand that world. That's a world I'm yet to look at. I'm still trying to get to grips with this one. I've got enough on the plate. I don't need to start doing that as well. That's what you're in for, right? But no, it's like, we'll launch into questions in just a second, because I appreciate things are going, but it's I can just keep marveling at looking at pictures and say it's almost like, short of you running off and becoming a ballerina, there's not much more in terms of like the complete opposite end of rugby. And yeah, I think it's an area that we massively need to spend more time and energy on. But yeah, Big Dave, I'm going to come to you for a question. I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to think about it while I go to other people. So just roll something through. You will shout out in the middle of the thing. You're going to get picked up. That's how that works.
Well, thanks, you know.
Ash had put her hand up, and Ash, as well as being a fantastic business owner and once club owner, used to play rugby in the team that we put together. So together. I used to say it's my team, and then she turned up once and flicked my ear, and I was like, all right, we did it. It's fine. And then from over here, I'm going to go with Emily because yeah, I've got that. So, question for Anne.
Okay, what unique insight from your rugby career do you incorporate into your yoga practice and teaching?
Good question. The answer to that question, funnily enough, came as you were speaking, because you talked about your role as a prop, being that support. So I was always, my bread and butter was line out. I was always the line out caller, whether it's a second row. Started as a second row, then moved into the back row. So I was always the one getting chucked in the air.
For those of you who don't have a reference point on this, because I appreciate this is rugby league country, right? Rugby union, the line out, you get lifted up. You sort of watch a game and you see it happen, and you think, oh, that's quite high. When you actually get picked up and you realise that, like, I'm probably a tall side for a prop. I'm not that much, so they're getting taller around me. So you're talking about 2 6-foot odd blokes at full stretch. So usually your pads will be about here. So your head is about 10 foot in the air. It's a long fucking way up. and there's two guys holding you there, and you best trust them because it's a long way up. Like I literally been lifted once. We're on a rugby camp for kids, and they put like the boys all lifted each other. Everyone got lifted, and they had to roll the coaches in to pick me up. But I was
You have to see if they can look, Jack.
absolutely terrified. Absolutely terrified. So sorry, but yeah, it's a long way up. It's a brave old thing to do. Like, yeah, I'm impressed.
So my studio is called Ascend Yoga, and it's all about helping people. So just to maybe give a little context around your daughter's story, we have our energy system that has a structure, same as our physical body has a structure, and it's centered around these major plexuses and centers through the body, chakras, if you want to give them a name, from the kind of yogic tradition. They're called chakras or energy centers, and if certain things happen, you can get energy and blockages in the lower centers.
Yeah.
So your first three centers very much kind of are your physical survival centers. So with practices like yoga and Tai Chi, breath work, you're able to move this energy up through your body, up through your energy system, up through your spine. So yeah, I guess my insight from me being a line out forward, rising up, ascending up, I help people, move this energy, balance this energy through the practice of yoga, the various healing modalities that I've practiced. And when you're able to kind of move this energy through you enter these states of feeling peaceful, feeling joy, feeling gratitude, love, which are all of our natural state of being. You know, these kind of more survival states, these are states that are added to our natural state. So yeah, that idea of ascending, but with that support, support from whether it's a coach, a community, support from your own body. So, you know, working on your own foundations with the way you move, the way you eat. Nutrition is a big part of my coaching as well. So yeah, for me, it's all about helping people move up from these survival centers into a place of more of a heart center. So that's your kind of center of your energetic body is your heart. So yeah, not to get too kind of deep, but you mentioned God, so I thought I could go there.
Your techniques and teachings for yoga for other athletes from various different sporting backgrounds. I mean, you obviously stated from a rugby perspective and how you've evolved from that into yoga. But what aspect of your teachings at the moment would you? Because you can imagine we're from various different sporting backgrounds. People have different perspectives and perceptions. How have you altered your teachings to accommodate that as well?
So I'll give you an example. I'm working with a young academy player at the moment, 17-year-old, just about to sign his first professional contract. And we've already touched upon it here today, about these two polar forces.
Yeah.
If you imagine that classic yin and yang symbol, if you imagine the white part of the symbol on the top and the black part of the symbol on the bottom, the rugby world is very yang. The yoga world is very yin. So I guess I've had a real kind of experience of the polarities of these two energies. So I think any sport, I was talking to Matt earlier about this, that would benefit from understanding and coaching around this yin energy, for benefits of recovery, for benefits of injury, recovery, prevention. Also, there's so much strength and power in this yin energy that people don't realize. So Yeah, so for me, it's remembering to have a balance of that within the way I coach. So it's not all about, right, you need to do this, do this, do this, do this. It's also teaching people the value of getting a good night's sleep, getting time for rest and introspection, practices like meditation where you go inwards. It's kind of like this journey of in and out, not just out all the time. So, and you know, I've been teaching this young academy guy meditations where you practice manifestation. So, you know, at the start of our coaching, his club had just gone bust. He was a London Irish Academy player. So he's like, I don't know what to do. I was like, what do you want? He's like, I want a professional contract with a club, university contract. I want to stay roughly close to home. And I was like, right, cool. We went into a meditation. I got him to visualize that future version of him in this moment where he's just sitting next to me. And I got him to imagine how he would feel in that future role as a professional rugby player. I got him to imagine how he would stand, how he would interact, what would he be doing on a daily basis. Within 4 months, he's got 2 professional contract offers. And he did not even have to go out and do any extras on the training pitch. He just needed to believe in that vision and then start to match his behaviors towards that version of him that he saw in that meditation or that visualization. So it's teaching these youngsters the power, and everybody, the power that we have in our own minds is infinite.
It's not seeing believing, believing seeing.
I don't know.
So yeah, it's powerful stuff. It really is. And you know, there's manifestation coaches and spiritual coaches that talk about this kind of stuff all the time, that are getting a lot more traction now online. The thing now is we've actually got access to this information now. You know, we're in the age of information. So I can't remember which one of my mentors said it. It's like, we're in the age of information, so ignorance is a choice.
Yeah.
So, you know, we can keep going on and pretending that we need to work hard and, you know, have this kind of step-by-step linear plan. Not to say that plans are, you know, absolute, not by any means, but there's this kind of quantum model of reality that we can tap into as well, which deals in, you know, instantaneous results, instantaneous healing. I've been to an advanced meditation retreat where they teach certain meditation techniques and energy healing techniques where people are getting healed of stage 4 cancers in a split second, which is, again, another thing that I'm still trying to get my head around. But, you know, being involved and seeing that and hearing people talk about how they had this and then the next minute it was gone, it's like, there is, the other thing I say to people is like, our kind of conscious mind versus our subconscious mind, as an example, is our conscious mind, you know, controls about 5 to 10% of our experience. Our subconscious is way more. So our conscious mind deals with what we can see, what we can experience with our 5 senses. Our subconscious is what, you know, everything else that's going on. So when you close your eyes and you take out all of that, there's this other world that we can explore, which is fascinating. I know I went on a bit of a tangent there, but I appreciate the question. And I hope that answered it.
You did.
Cool.
Over to Ash.
Thank you. It's been I've wrote a few bits down as we get going along. I'm not being rude on my phone. I see a lot of similarities in your journey and your development that resonate with me. I did play rugby, for several years.
Flanker as well.
As a flanker, second row, so flanker. So I now run a health and safety consultancy. And we focus on the moral obligations, or I do personally focus on the moral obligations of keeping people safe. And obviously, like through the rules that change with the RFU, there's a lot more changes coming in to keep people safe on the pitch. You mentioned earlier about claims, you briefly touched on it at the start. Do you think the RFU and other rugby unions have a part to play in this, in the journey of protecting people and ongoing support afterwards as well? Because that's basically who you've been employed by. And also supporting the inner person to becoming the best person they can. Like, no matter the scoreline or what league you're in, like, do you think they have a part to play in that, you know, in that journey that you've been through? You've done that by yourself and done an amazing job, but is there more of a responsibility on the unions?
You first.
I think like 100%, of course. You know, there's got to be more of a duty of care, and you know, certain systems in place. I know the NFL have actually changed, like actually put it into law that you cannot have more than X amount of contact in your training through the week and things like that. And I think the RFU can definitely add in some. I know that the guys. So I interviewed Alex Popham, who's one of the guys involved, on the podcast, and he was talking about a few of the things that they're trying to push to, you know, to become laws in the game for the professional game, even the amateur game, in terms of how much contact is allowed and things like that. So there's 100% things that can be done to help the players. But I'm also, you know, of a mentality of, like, there's a lot of this going on, not just in the rugby community, but in the world, in that, you know, the finger's being pointed at the game. But how I, you know, sometimes brutally, it can be quite a brutal, you know, place to start, is whenever you point a finger at somebody, there's three fingers pointing back at yourself. So I think there's definitely an empowerment piece that needs to be, you know, put on the players as well. Is like, yes, the game could have looked after them, but you know, there was never anybody holding a gun to anybody's head to play a game. So you know, so it's and this is what I'm trying to do with this young player, and hopefully more young players, is to get them to tap into their own bodies and their own sense of what's right or wrong for them. So if you've got a coach telling you you've got to play tomorrow and you're not, you know, you've got a head injury last week, or you haven't told anybody, it's like, you know, having that responsibility, that self-responsibility as well. Similarly for these guys going through this big tribunal, it's like, you know, we want compensation from the game. Yes, I agree that they you know, should have that, but they also can, you know, look at themselves and look at how they can, you know, almost go on a similar journey to me, where I've kind of healed a lot of all of this, you know, injury damage that the game has damaged, that's done me. That, like I say, I don't see it as damage now. I see it as growth and a necessary part of my journey. So, you know, I think it's both. I mean,
I think you don't want to be a victim. Like, I'm very much with you. I've done a lot of healing. You don't want to be a victim.
Yeah.
But also, how do you, if you don't know, how do you get access to that education?
Yeah.
You had a great awakening, but how do you get access to that education?
Yeah.
Well, this is where this subject is something I'm tied up in quite a lot of fronts on a few different pieces, and I've got views and different bits similar to yours in many ways. So early on in my career, I got knocked out twice in the space of 2 weeks. There's a thing called grad. So normally, if you play rugby at any level, contact any level, it's a 3 week layoff. You get banged out 3 weeks before you come back. At pro level, they have this thing called graduated return to play, which basically means if you go through each stage of this testing, because you're so closely monitored by your professional medical team, you can come back within a week. So I was back. I'd missed a week because I'd failed one test on the first day, which pushed me past the 7-day point, so I couldn't play that weekend. I was back the following week. I'm in training. Someone's pelvis, the deadliest bone in the body, by the way. Someone's pelvis. Like, they talk about tackle bollocks. You put your head down there. That is the biggest lump of bone you've got. Throw it away, bang, out. I couldn't walk straight for months. Awful. And the physio at the time sent me to this specialist, and he was like, "It's not the normal. It's not what you had to do." Brad Mathemas, he's now looks after the Welsh team now. And the specialist sat there and he said, "The thing is," he says, "you professional athletes are trained to pass physical tests, and the only test we've got is this SCAT test." And he's like, "And all of you, like, concussed or not, can stand there, put your feet one foot the other and balance. Close your eyes and balance. He says you can all do it whether you're unconscious or not. So he said, so what I'm going to do is instead of testing, because I know you could pass it, to this day I know the 5 words in the bloody scat test, right? I've been knocked out more than 10 times. It's ridiculous, right? He said, I'm just going to tell you what happens. If you continue to get concussed, if you play while concussed, there's sudden death syndrome before the age of 21, you get banged up twice in short succession, you can literally drop dead. And then the other one at the time, they call it punch drunk syndrome. So that's where you watch old boxers and you see them sort of staggering and stuttering over words. Anyway, if you want to end up like that, you keep playing. If you want to actually have a life after rugby, then you look after yourself. You tell me if you can concussed or not. So from that point, I was like, no, because I want a life after. I was a young dad, so I was like, I want to be around for my kids. So I've always put myself, you know, if I'm not right, I don't play. Fast forward, and Alex Popham at the head of that lawsuit. Anyone who's played professional for a certain amount of time gets offered a free brain scan. So obviously they're gathering evidence, right? I was one of the first 270 when I got brain scanned. Of the 270 that got brain scanned, 240 have got the plaque that indicates they've got CTE, which is the beginning of, I forget I know the full thing, it's a mouthful, early onset dementia. So I'm one of the 30 players out of that 270 that's come back clean. And it's like the reason mine's come back clean is because I actually took that advice and went, yeah, I'm not being that guy. So when you're saying there about like first responsibility is you, I know for a fact most of those lads were never given that conversation. They were never given that education. They were never told that was the thing. They were told, follow this graduate return to play and you'll be fine. And that was the advice of the then medical chief officer for the RFU. And that's really the foot of the lawsuit to me. It's that going, they lied to us. Yeah. So there is an element of both. Like we have to look after ourselves. We need the education in the first place. And where I'm now working as a guy I work with, through some of the other bits, who's he used to be Armed Forces, and the Armed Forces Covenant is this document that you can sign up to as a business. It basically says we believe that these people gave their lives, you know, they sacrificed for us. They went above and beyond, put themselves in mortal danger for us, for as a country, and therefore we, as people of this country, owe them a debt. And it's basically saying you'll support them, you won't prejudice against them. In some cases, you give a discount and stuff. You sign this document, and it's like we support these people. I don't think sports anywhere near as dangerous or as important. Like no one's going to die because I don't hit a scrum 3 times. Do you mean like it's not as important? But yeah, to be fair, I mean I've been in teams with people that have left rugby league and received death threats. I mean I do know it happens. There's a lot of passion behind it. But there's definitely a duty of care for the governing bodies. There's people sat in Twickenham, for example, who have got jobs on the back of people like me and him running around doing that for a living. It's like there is a duty of care. And that kind of idea of they owe us something. Like we were paid to do the job, but so are the army boys. Like theirs is far more dangerous. I'm not trying to there is a parallel, it's not the same scale, but it's that kind of going, you've got your job based on the fact that these people are out there putting their minds, bodies and souls on the line. When they are finished playing, they should have some sort of support, and at the minute there is none.
And it's the education in the younger people coming through as well. How do you change that?
I suppose going on from that, my 2 nephews core academies over in the Northwest, and both have had to drop out through injury, but they were so focused on that, I'm in the academy, I just want to play rugby, that they forgot about themselves, but there was nobody telling them and protecting them from themselves, and that blinkered approach to this is all I want to do, which kind of touching on what you're saying, I kind of agree to a point, you know, that finger and the 3 fingers pointing back at you, but certainly growing up in the rugby environment, watching it transition from semi-pro to pro, the pressures from the powers that be, especially as the finances have grown, and the pressure on the player to be in the team and to hide their injuries, whatever they are, whether they're head or just bodily, that they've become that much larger that I think you as a player, you have responsibility for yourself, but the pressures from outside of that are, I think, far outweigh you yourself. I mean, it takes a strong person to stand up and say, hang on a minute, yes, I'm on contract with you, but I'm a bit broken today.
Yeah, it's massive,
Yeah.
and there
That
are
needs to-
people that
that
do it,
needs to change.
but it's a rare beast. Sorry, we're at 11:15 already, so we're gonna have to so I promised you a question. Do you still want a question?
I'm struggling a little.
She's struggling a little bit.
Last question.
If you throw a quick one out, you answer that quickly, Linda for a chat, and we can all run for the doors.
All right. Thanks, Anne. That was really interesting. I mean, Charlie and I are actually working on an Alex project at the moment to help rugby league players into work. So I want to sort of take up the angle, if you like. So if I was an employer taking on somebody who I've watched play and I probably have a bit of the hero syndrome, how can I best look after that individual when he comes into my company so I can get the best of him?
We like rugby union players as well. It's just...
I guess as sportsmen, they like a compelling goal or vision. So yeah, get them working on some sort of project that has something tangible at the end of it. So, you know, even with my coaching that I work with a client, I always guide them towards this kind of North Star, almost call it like a North Star trophy. Like what's your dream? What's your vision that you're working towards? You know, I think they definitely buy into that. And, you know, a sportsman likes to train, they like to work hard, so that they get that idea of structure and discipline. And
I would say these guys are probably nicer working with people that don't have that structure and discipline.
right,
You know, they're saying, oh, well, he's making us look really bad here because, you know,
right.
he's doing all this, he's really working hard and we want to not work that hard.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's you know, again, there's a conversation I had with Matt. It was when we were thinking about athletes, the All Blacks. What's the book? The All Black book, Legacy,
Yeah.
where they talk about human first.
Yeah.
So yes, they've been involved in sport, but at their core, they're still a human being. So it's connecting with that essence, and that essence is always slightly different with everybody, right? But it's yeah, it's kind of sitting opposite them and going, right, what is it you want out of this relationship, this career? You know, do you want to move up to this,
Yeah.
or you know, what lights you up, what you're passionate about, what you know, what you're scared of? You know, because that is another question, another angle you could go at from someone who's, say, been involved in the rugby world to then moving into something else. They're going to have fears, they are going to have doubts. So it's like meet them at their humanness.
Yeah.
That helps them build connection, and you know, connection is everything in business.
Because I think not everybody's. I think if you come from rugby or any team sport, you're a team player.
Yeah.
I've noticed that for 40 years in business that people that's come from a sporting background are team players, so they work well in the team. I came from an individual sport, which was judo, so I don't particularly play well with others. So mine was very focused. I used to have to be left to deal with projects on my own because I was not particularly a team player in that respect. And that's why I asked the question earlier, transition with other athletes coming from other sports, because it's a boxer, very much individually orientated. So I think you do adapt. It's good in the business if you've got somebody as a team player, because they do work well with others.
So, sum it all up. You've thrown so much out there to sum it all up, it's going to be tough. So rather than summing it all up, like one message, because from what you've said today, the thing that's really hit me is that the treasure you see lies within the cave you fear to enter. I think that's an amazing like thought process, because it is sort of basically re-examining stuff. But one thing, if you had to give them one message to leave with and kind of like hold on to this week, if it's something you've already said, or just like make it short because it's
Yeah, I guess for me, this what I talked about with my group on Sunday with these dads. We've already talked about today this idea of these two forces, this yin and this yang energy. The place in the middle, I see as the flow state, as the present moment. So, if you all go, they find it hard to be present and in the flow. So it's explore that other energy. If you're kind of really in that slow energy, maybe need a bit more of that, that yang energy, explore that. So it's, yeah, encouraging you to explore all of that aspect of life, those two polarities, because when, you know, you find that balance point between the two energies, things flow, life flows. It's less, you know, less stressful, less forced. And, you know, like you've all been here, super present when we're here. We're not anywhere else. We're not anywhere other than this place here. And this is, you know, this is the magic of, you know, the Kung Fu Panda reference. I think one of the first times I came up here, you had this quote, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift. That's why it's called the present. Like one of my favorite quotes. It's one of the quotes that I always use with, you know, when I work with youngsters. You know, I used to teach mindfulness in schools for a little while as well. That was part of the mindfulness in schools curriculum, that video and that quote. And it's so true. You know, to be present with somebody is a real gift, especially in this modern world where there's so many distractions. And this is where, you know, coming back to the yoga, practices like yoga can help cultivate this sense of presence, cultivate this sense of reducing the noise of the chattery mind and coming into a place of balance into our hearts. Because ultimately that's the present moment, that's the flow state. It's leading from the heart, it's moving from the heart. So yeah, I'll leave that there.
Ladies and gentlemen, and Andrews. So I appreciate time's rolling on a bit, but just for those of you that are interested in what we do, next month we are joined by Pete Swapkins, another old teammate. He did play in those. So that's March 28th, which will be here. Tickets again will be available on Eventbrite. And those of you that are members, you get reduced rates on those events, as well as being sort of welcome here. Obviously, you can come here whenever you like. The motorist is not ours. Come whenever you feel like it. Feel free to hire the room. They like it when people come and do bits. But we're here every week. We believe we might be trialling Tuesdays sometime in the near future.
Yes, hopefully starting in March, just to see whether more people are able to.
There you are. Stella's actually in charge around here. Don't be fooled by me being nosy. So we work here in sort of a co-working, networking space. It's just there's a fair few that say you sit at home staring at, you know, dishwashers and stuff while you should try and keep on the laptop. It's good to get out your own head and go somewhere new. So once a week we're here, we work together. As part of the membership, you get a nice coffee mug, which Richard has kindly brought in, modelled for us. Thank you, glamorous assistant. So we have a coffee earn up, so you get a free coffee on us as well as part of it. So sort of encouraging people to work together in that clubhouse sort of mentality as we run with it. So if you fancy any of that, do give us a shout. And then this one's our next sort of big event. So similar vibe to this conversation, obviously very different people, very different journeys. But we do it over a 3-course dinner and have a bit of music and a bit of fun around the outside of it. So the 16th of May at 7 p.m. here, an evening with Dom and Jess Matteo. Dom, obviously, Leeds United footballing legend, lots of people football-wise, but Jess herself was a pro dancer. And to throw the stat out there, so the NFL have done this study, 60 to 80% of marriages and relationships break down during a professional sports career. Of the small percentage that survive the career, a further 90% break up in 6 months of retirement. So she is one of a very, very small percentage of people who's actually gone the distance. And probably because she understands it from the inside, having been a pro dancer herself. So actually having both of them sat at the front, love the dinner, we'll do that. If you fancy any part of that, tickets are available, some sponsorships available, some's gone already. Stella's the lady to speak to on all of these fronts, because again, she's actually in charge around here. Feel free to get in touch with things. Thank you all for coming this morning. Hope you all enjoyed it. We're in here for a little while longer yet, so feel free to grab other people. If you need introductions, if you need contact details, we've got all of them. We know everyone, so feel free. And thank you very much.
Thank you.